why I spit Patron on this microphone. Watch out, I'm in the zone, worth for everything I own. Life is March Madness, one mistake, then you go. Yeah, I had a stroke, but your boy still rhyming. And Fresh got locked, but the squad still wildin'. Catch me in any city in the hood, we grindin'.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. It is that time. It's prediction time for the biggest fight of the year. I mean, you can say what you want, but I believe that, it's proven and it will be proven that this is the biggest fight of the year. That isn't an exhibition, I should say. In that fight, Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Swift Garcia. And so now we need to know, who are you picking and why? And I'm going to start this one off with the real Mojo.
Man, I'm going Errol Spence Jr., man. I feel like he's in the ring. He's back in the ring. They put him in the ring. He said he's good. I'm picking based on him being 100%. And, I feel like he's a little bit bigger, and he's just as skilled as Danny. It's gonna be a great fight, man. It's gonna be a great fight. But I'm going with Errol Spence. All
right, Ned.
Hey, man, with my man Mo right there, I'm going with my man Errol Spence. I think this is gonna be a big comeback fight for him, and he's gonna prove the world wrong. He's gonna show that he's still one of the best in the
prove the world wrong. How can you prove the world wrong if you're the favorite? You gotta love this dude.
You got TC fans out
Go
there.
ahead and make Spence the underdog, man. Go ahead.
Let's not forget, what happened to Spence a year ago, and he's getting back in the ring, and he's taking on a difficult opponent. So, with this fight, it's like we are, a lot of us didn't want Spence to get back in with a tough opponent just yet, with the top elite welterweights. So with him coming back without a tune-up and with a pandemic and everything, we don't know how he's really looking or if he's ready. He's been if he's in fight form. But let's go Spence.
All right, G.
All right, this one's actually really, really tough for me. And the reason why is because it depends on which Earl we're going to see. Not because of the accident, even though the accident does play a factor. It's really, is it going to be Earl that sticks to an actual game plan, or is it going to be Earl who's fighting based off of ego? And ego Spence, to me, could be a problem because during the build-up, Spence was talking about, you know what, I could stay in the pocket with Danny. I'm like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, just utilize your jab, use your athleticism. Make Danny earn it. Like, make him work. Don't make it easy for the dude and be like, yeah, I'm going to stay in the pocket and trade with Danny Garcia. Like, you're out your mind. So if he does that, he going to lose. So I'm hoping him and his trainer are like, yo, bro, that's for the cameras. But during that fight, you better look like AJ versus the Ruiz 2 fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, maintain that distance. Don't get caught with the hook, and then that's the way I could see him winning. But if he's going into that fight with that strategy that he just said like a week ago, bro, he's going to get knocked out, man. And so, it's weird. I want Spence to win, right? And really, I do this. I'm going to have to go with my logical mind, and I have to say I'm going with Danny Garcia. And the reason why is because, listen, Earl, and I've seen him do this before, where he fights based upon what people are saying in comments, trying to prove the world wrong. If you do that with a Danny Garcia, you're going to get punished. And I think he's going to do it because he said it. That he's going to actually get in the middle of the ring and trade with Danny Garcia and stay in the pocket. Bro, you out your mind, yo. This ain't Kell Brook, bro. You know what I'm saying? So don't do that, man. And so I have to pick Danny Garcia. I think even though Errol Spence has the tools to beat Danny, the ego is what's going to kill him. So, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I would love to be like, hey, you know what, Boxing World, I was wrong. Thank you, Errol, for winning. But with that strategy that he talking about, man, he might die in that. not die, but you know what I mean, metaphorically
When
speaking.
you pick
Like,
on based on a strategy a fighter says in advance, they never tell
Yo,
you what they're gonna
he
do.
be lying.
yeah,
They all lying.
hold on, time out. Earl don't be lying. Remember, Earl literally was like, yo, I'm gonna outbox Mikey. I'm like, bro, you can just muscle him. You know what I'm saying? But he literally was like, I'm not going for the knockout. I'm gonna show y'all I can outbox Mikey Garcia. So this dude, like, what he said,
And Mikey wasn't giving him nothing either.
yeah, true. But yo, Earl literally said it before. He goes like, I read all the comments. I watch all the videos about me. I'm like, bro, why? Just why? You know what I'm saying? You don't need to do that. So people gonna put the battery in Earl back. Be like, you ain't gonna trade with him. Yeah, I am. You know what I'm saying? And then we're gonna see what happens. So please, Earl, don't trade with this dude. Yo, honestly, Danny Garcia to me is flat-footed, right? So me, I will make Danny move. I will force him to chase me. Why would I make it easy for Danny Garcia to take my head off? It just doesn't make sense, man. So I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope my prediction is foolish and I sound like a clown. Y'all can call me a casual. Y'all can do all of that. I hope y'all can do that for me, for real. But what I'm seeing right now, man, and this is another thing too I forgot to add. The build-up of this fight, when they show their training camps, right, I have to be honest. I'm seeing Errol Spence hit the heavy bag, hit the mitts. It ain't that same power as when Danny was doing it. I see the difference. It's clear as day for me. So I'm like, bro, please don't trade with this guy. Like, for real. Like,
We all knew that Danny had power before.
bro, when you saying Earl is talking about he want to sit in the pocket and trade, then I'm like, I don't want to throw away my prediction, bro. You know what I mean? If he didn't say that, I'd be like, all day. I'd be sounding like Big Mo and Ned. You know what I mean? Like, like Spence all day, the truth. It's the truth. Nah, bro, I'd be lying to myself if I said that based upon what he's been talking lately. So
All right, so you're going Danny Garcia.
I'm going with Swift on this one.
All right, Trill Dollar Bill.
Couple of things come to mind. Yo, G, I'm rocking with you. I'm walking with you. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually agree with some of the points that you did make. But there's this one thing another thing that people don't give Danny Garcia credit for. He's a small guy. Like, a lot of these guys are bigger. These guys are bigger welterweights. That's the up that I'm giving on Errol, is the size. I believe the size will be a little bit different. And this is where it turns. I'm giving it to, because the problem is I see this going the distance. And I'm giving it to Errol because I don't see Danny Garcia getting what's the name? A decision.
Yeah.
In Texas. So just for that reason alone, I'm gonna go with Errol. Just because they're not gonna give Danny the decision. They're just not gonna do it. You know, he will have to knock out Errol to get that decision. And Styles may fights. He'll be able to hit him with some joints, but as far as getting him out of there, I don't think he'll be able to knock out Errol. I think Errol will be the bigger guy. I think Danny will win more rounds, but not get the decision. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Sean Porter.
Sean Porter. I think Danny is very economical with his punches. He doesn't really waste punches. I don't know if y'all ever noticed this, but Danny doesn't waste punches. It wasn't like he threw 800 and only landed 3. Like, he's very economical with his shots. If he's gonna throw 4, he's gonna get 380 something. You know what I'm saying? Danny is he doesn't waste punches. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't waste punches. So I won't be surprised if they have Danny with more connected shots at the end of this night, but don't get the victory. Seen it before. You know what I'm saying? But I think Spence got the size. And another thing I want to question, but I really don't question it no more. But I was starting to question it when the first fight was made. I was like, was Danny hungry? Was Danny still hungry? Because doing some digging, I realized that Danny's very successful. outside of boxing. You know what I'm saying? And when we get money, you're getting everything you want, and he just copped a new Ferrari truck. You know what I'm saying? When you're doing things like this, your hunger
16 is on tracks. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, he
Ruiz.
managing his sisters and all that. Like, then he got a lot going on. And he's getting break, got the barbershop, the studio, all that. You know what I'm saying? The real estates and going and popping. Not only that, he has a loving family. He has a loving family. And like, you get all these and you start wondering, is this person still hungry? Then after watching that PBC special, he's still hungry. Then he has a chip on his shoulder. He feels like he's been wronged. You know, he's been wronged by the sport of boxing, and he don't cry about it like other fighters. He say, "Hey, people like who they like," but he's aware of what's going on. But my pick is Errol. I got Errol by decision because I just don't see Danny getting a decision, especially in Texas. I just don't see it. But don't be surprised if Danny, when you look at the stats, he connected with more joints.
All right, so I need y'all to walk with me because this is the most difficult pick for me for a number of reasons. One, in the beginning, when we first found out about Errol and we were watching Errol in the Olympics and we were hearing like stories about Errol in the gym, we knew that he was a great prospect and we knew that he was going to do great things. We saw him as a professional. And as G can attest, and Trill and I, and we were predicting Errol was going to be one of basically we knew it would come down to two guys, and one was Errol, and the other we predicted was Terrence Crawford. But that was all based on the talent, the hunger, the desire that we were hearing and we were seeing from Errol Spence. But then we started to see other things from Errol. He was running around drunk at events with like Tank and Brona. And we were what is this dude doing? You know?
How you gonna bring in my favorite welterweight? You know what I'm saying?
He was running around events drunk with Tank.
With Tank.
But Brona happened to be there. He was drunk too. But he was at, events drunk. He was ballooning in weight. He was having to lose weight. You would see him, like, even when he had that face-to-face incident with TC, he wasn't in shape. TC was in shape, and it was one of the things TC pointed out to him was like, bro, you looking fat. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, he wasn't in shape. So then I started to see that guy. And that guy would fight. And he wouldn't look as impressive as the old Errol. So I started to see regression. Like, for example, when he fought Sean Porter, to me, he didn't look phenomenal. And this is for all you who want to, try to label people who are being objective as fanboys. Why don't you look at our predictions leading up to the fight with Sean Porter, where we thought Sean Porter was going to get washed, and then watch us react to the fight. I had Sean Porter winning until the knockdown. All I did was sing Sean Porter's praises after the fight for the phenomenal performance he put on that I didn't think he was going to be able to do.
Yeah. You changed up all of our opinions of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when we look at Errol, we saw regression. That wasn't the guy that we predicted was going to be one of the last men standing in the welterweight division. And then all of a sudden he had that car accident, right, where it was life-changing and potentially life-threatening. And then you could take a look at what we said about Errol Spence too, the fanboys that we're supposed to be calling out Errol about that and telling him that he needs to change. So you have those things, and what I saw then, I was skeptical about Errol. And the Errol I saw against Sean Porter, I felt like Danny Garcia would beat this guy. Right? That's what I felt. I felt like Danny Garcia would beat this guy. Right? But now with the accident, if Errol has, dedicated himself to the sport, he's changed his circle. He's no longer hanging around those guys who are drinking. His lease on life is different. The way he moves is different. So if he's back to being the guy who we predicted, because Trill was famous for the quote, "I got Errol Spence for the next 3 years." But then we started to see that this wasn't the guy. So once again, being objective, we move with the appropriate manner. We're not just picking because there's no. But if Earl's back to that guy who we were like, yo, he's going to be one of the last men standing, then the odds are correct in this fight. And although I'm a Danny guy, Earl should win. But then you go to Danny Garcia. And when I look at Danny Garcia, if you don't know, for all you clowns who've been running your mouth, Danny Garcia is my favorite welterweight.
Is it brother?
For all you who didn't know, talking about Errol, do you know how happy I would be if Danny knocks out Errol? Do you know how happy I would be? See, that's the problem with y'all. You never seen objectivity in your life. You don't know what it looks like to be objective. Danny Garcia is actually my favorite welterweight.
This one was TC.
Everybody knows it's TC.
That part is, I used to like TC a hell of a lot more until his fans, I saw how delusional his fans were.
I know, right?
But
TC was my guy.
Same with Wilder. I used to like Wilder a hell of a lot more until I had to argue with his fans so much. But getting back to this, for me, the reason why I like Danny is because this dude just wins and he gets no respect. He wins and he gets the hatred. But for me, with Danny, it goes a little deeper. See, Danny brings me back to like my days when I lived in foster homes. See, I know y'all look at me and you think like, oh, like I was like some cakewalk. Like I had like a cakewalk life, right? No. Like I had to whoop people. I had to live in foster homes. I had to deal with it all. But when I was in foster homes, the only thing I had to look forward to was the next big fight. And that was the only thing that was consistent in my life. I didn't know where I was going to be staying, but I could go to the gym, I could train, I could fight. And that's what watching Mike Tyson, watching Lennox Lewis, watching Felix Trinidad, De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Roy Jones. That was what I looked forward to, was the next big fight, the next big fight, the next big fight. That's all I had. The boxing gym taught me discipline, taught me dedication, which I was able to apply in school, which as time grew, as time went on, I was able to become educated. I was able to become one of the most intelligent people in the class, to where I was able to succeed in life without having to box. But boxing is what got me there. That discipline, that love, that passion for the sport. And so when I was coming up watching the sport, me and my dad, we could never agree on nothing. No fighter. I would be like Floyd Mayweather. He would be like Diego Corrales. I'd be like, you're moron. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we could just never agree on a fighter, but there was one fighter that we could always agree on. That the world could agree on. Felix Tito Trinidad. And that was important because if you don't know, I am half Puerto Rican and African American. So if you don't know the difference, I'm African American. I'm the descendant of slaves that built this country. Like my ancestors built the United States of America. You could trace my roots to South Carolina, right? And my mom is a dark-skinned woman. My mom, her skin color is like Ned, and my dad's a white Puerto Rican, right? And so my whole life was like a Jada Kiss lyric when I was younger, right? I was too hard for MTV, not black enough for BET, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, I can't tell you how many, it was crazy. I had to whoop like Puerto Rican side and the black side all the time. I was always fighting, but they couldn't touch me. You know what I'm saying? And then when I got older, they all love me. They all want to claim me now. I was like, oh, that's the dude. It's like, but by then I was just comfortable with who I was within myself. But the beauty of Tito Trinidad was I actually got to know my Puerto Rican side of the family because I was going there to watch the fights. Now this is when pay-per-view was pay-per-view. Like you had to go to someone who had like the money, had the box or whatever, and you had to go and watch it. Like it wasn't all this YouTube, whatever. So I would go there and actually watch the fights with them. But the one thing about Tito that was great was Tito was dark, a dark Puerto Rican. like me. Right? So like you can't hate Tito and you can't hate me and then love Tito. You dig what I'm saying? And it was just one of those deals. But Danny doesn't speak Spanish like that. And Puerto Rico doesn't accept Danny like that. Right? And I can understand that because like I told you, from the times when I was too hard for MTV, not black enough for BET, I understand people just like they want to judge you for like your skin color, or you know, my hair was too straight for one side, but not straight enough for the other. My skin was too dark for one side, but not dark enough for the other, right? And I just feel like so much of that superficial, dumb nonsense falls on Danny Garcia. And, you know, for me, I'm not picking with logic. I'm not picking with anything but my heart, taking it back to the Tito Trinidad days. And I'm rolling with Danny Garcia. And if Errol wins, he deserves so much credit because after the car accident, he chose to take on a live dog. He could have taken a tune-up. He could have taken an easy fight. He could have taken a guy who was broken down and hasn't fought a competitive fight in years. He chose Danny Swift Garcia. And if he wins, there's no doubt in my mind, he's the #1 welterweight in the division. If Danny Garcia wins, there's no doubt in my mind, he's the #1 welterweight in the division. This is the fight for supremacy in the welterweight division. December 5th, live on Fox pay-per-view. Everyone should tune in to see the two best fighters in the welterweight division.
Please like and subscribe. Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Also, check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.
We could have been flawless, flying up to make people's mouths drop jawless. How can 2 years be erased in 1 August? And you know I have my pride, so I had to get brolic. All in all, I can't call it. Just know you're my queen. Wish I was denim, cause then I be in your jeans. Can't fight fate, and you've been loving me since your teens. But when you can't move forward, you gotta wipe your slate clean.